rock, we're going to rock around the clock tonight.
We're back in our last segment of Where You Live with Gene and Tony. We're broadcasting from the Concierge Landscape Studios, and we're brought to you by Extreme Exteriors. Let's hear now from the Community Associations Institute. The CAI Minute is brought to you by Start to Finish Maintenance Contractors. Start to Finish provides 24-hour service for all of your home and business maintenance needs. Call Start to Finish at 952-259-1219 for your home, for your business, for your peace of mind.
Are you a member of the Community Associations Institute? For nearly 40 years, CAI has provided education and resources to volunteer homeowners who govern community associations and the professionals who support them. Visit caionline.org to learn more. That address again is caionline.org. CAI helps community association board members by providing online resources, in-person training, and hard copy publications written by association management experts. CAI offers community managers professional development, networking opportunities, and a certification program that's established as the industry standard nationwide. Minnesota has its own chapter of the Community Associations Institute to bring resources and tools from community associations around the country right to your home. Visit CAIMN.com to learn more and become a member of CAI today. Your community and management company will benefit from your involvement. Join the Community Associations Institute today at CAIMN.com and click on Membership.
Before we get back to our free speech story, Gene, I want to offer a landlord-tenant tidbit of information, and this also comes from the Tenants' Bill of Rights passed in 2010 state legislation. If tenants can be forced to pay attorney's fees in an eviction action or in a dispute with the landlord, if they lose a court case, then if the landlord loses the court case, the tenants have to be allowed to collect their attorney's fees from the landlord. It has to be a reciprocal situation. Up till 2010, it was not. The landlord could put language in their lease that said, if I take you to court and I prevail, you have to pay my attorney's fees. But there was no reciprocity. So this makes it an even playing field. And that's from the 2010 Tenants' Bill of Rights in the Minnesota State legislation.
And I like that. That makes sense to me.
I completely agree with it. It's fair. It's right.
Yeah, it makes people think twice before going ahead, I think, with a frivolous and silly lawsuit.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's right. So we were talking about this free speech issue out of Anaheim where one board member and one ex-board member said mean things to each other during an election meeting. And then one of them sued the other for slander.
Here's something that's frivolous and gets out of hand, and it goes all the way to the California Supreme Court.
It's amazing anything gets done when people are trying to deal with this kind of stuff.
Isn't that the truth? And,
yes.
and here's the situation. Here is this woman, Veronica Cabrera, who says to someone who's campaigning to be on the board again, accusing him of being a dictator, of board funds, of funds of the association missing during his time in office. He turns around and says, but wait a minute, I recall when you were the board president, you had promised me something, and I never heard from you.
You promised me a $100 rebate. What happened to that?
Yes, and he does nothing, but she turns around and sues him, and we're talking about this whole idea about slander and libel, and we talked about what that difference is. Slander is something that would be the spoken word. Libel would be something that would be in the printed word or broadcast word, something that's recorded for people to go back on. And I think that it is very insidious for anybody, anytime, to make an accusation without backing it up with something that's factual.
That's right.
Let me give an idea what's slander and what's not slander. So if it were true that this board president had absconded with association funds,
right,
and the person was taken to court, and it was proven, and he was forced to repay money back, okay?
Yeah.
Now you've got something that is recorded, a matter of
that
public,
you can talk about.
Matter of public record. Anything else is your opinion.
Okay.
And so you have to be careful because you're talking about slander. What's
That's
interesting about this case is they say that you should take a look at, the Supreme Court said, I think you ought to take a look at this differently. It's not slander because you're dealing with something that it goes from the private arena to the public arena. You're talking about an election.
An election in a mini government.
Yes.
Which that's how they described a homeowners association as a little democratic society. So they think it should be treated as a major election would be treated in the state of California. Now, they do say something that is true, that the association is governed by the same kinds of open meeting laws as public agencies are. And in the state of Minnesota, that's true. They're corporations, so open meeting laws that apply to corporations also apply to homeowners associations.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and here's an interesting quote. Freedom of speech assures people the opportunity to voice their opinions about candidates and say what they feel is appropriate. That is what Barry Ross said, who was Alum's lawyer and attorney.
All right.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
So he was saying in this particular case, Mr. Alum was sharing his opinion of her. And so, again, the lawsuit wasn't him saying going against her. He said, you gave your opinion.
Right.
And he was okay with it.
Right.
He said, but I have an opinion, and I'm speaking it, and now you're saying it's slander?
Well, she has a lot of, I think she has a lot of nerve to bring a slander lawsuit against this guy when she actually did exactly the same thing, if not worse.
Oh, I think it was worse. Yeah, definitely.
It's kind of crazy. Yeah. And she has an attorney who's supporting her in this.
But what do you think of this idea? And this is the idea, and that is freedom of speech assures people the opportunity to voice their opinions about a candidate and say what they feel is appropriate. You can give your opinion. We live in a society where we have freedom in our government, which means we have freedom to dissent, freedom to be able to share our opinion.
Right.
And so that's what he's hanging his hat on.
It seems like this decision says that in an election of a public body, mm-hmm. the rules for slander are relaxed. Isn't that what they're saying? You can be a little bit slanderous in an election campaign.
I know
that
what
is
you mean.
Kind of what they're saying.
The
rules are not as strict as if this were in a private business or between two private citizens.
Yes, I think you're right. There is clearly when there has been a case of slander or defamation, and boy, in my years of being in business, I've seen that happen.
Sure.
Before. One of the things the attorney asks is, what damage is there?
Sure. What was the resulting damage of this?
And some of that you don't know. But if you can't find any damage, it sure makes it hard to say this is how I've been damaged.
If Ms. Cabrera can't prove that she was damaged in any way by the fact that she didn't pay back the $100 rebate,
and I think it's an interesting one, and I think I kind of like it.
But think of election campaigns. All of the negative campaigning we have to listen to, where candidates are throwing the muck at each other. I almost wish there were a little stricter rules for slander during an election campaign. I think people should have to put something behind these accusations they make of one another. It maybe would make for cleaner campaigns.
Yeah, you make a good point. Well, it looks like we are run out of time. Folks, thanks so much for joining us today. And we look forward to being with you again next Sunday right here on Where You Live with Gene and Tony. Until then, have a great rest of the Sunday. We'll see you next week.